Archaeology is one of the most important sciences that sheds light on our past. But what if our past is not quite the way we imagine it to be? Hi friend, you are on the KirTop channel. Ancient Roman boxing gloves. Leather gloves were discovered in the summer of 2017 on the territory of the ancient Roman fort of Vindolanda, located south of Hadrian's Wall, a defensive fortification built around 122 to 128 AD. Accordingly, the gloves should be about 2,000 years old. Together with gloves, scientists found swords, shoes, and bath towels. Archaeologists say that this is supposedly the only surviving example of gloves. Archaeologists believe that they were used not for fighting, but for sparring. The gloves were well preserved as they had lain all this time under the concrete floor and were not exposed to oxygen. The most colorful tomb of ancient Egypt. In Egypt, many tombs have been found, but never so bright with such well-preserved colors. The more surprising is the fact that it is as much as 4,400 years old. The tomb belongs to a certain official from the time of the construction of the pyramids named Khufu. The writings on the walls call him the pharaoh's only friend, the warden of the great house, one of the 10 greatest in Upper Egypt. In other words, he was an extremely nobleman. But the most majestic thing in the tomb is not the dignitary, but the paintings that accompany him on his last journey. They depict sailing ships, peasants working in the fields, and incredibly intricate designs. How exactly the Egyptians managed to keep colors vibrant for almost 5,000 years is still a mystery. The oldest spider in Germany. Meet Arthrolycosa wolterbecki. This baby lived here approximately 315 million years ago, when northern Germany was still at the equator and was covered with tropical forests. The spider belongs to the ancient Gliederspinnen group, which are found today only in East Asia. Did you know that spiders weren't always as common as they are today? Scientists believe that in tropical forests 300 million years ago, they were extremely rare. And this makes the remains of spiders from this time even more unique. So far, only 11 species have been known that can be definitely identified as spiders. Meet the 12th. Fossilized remains of Arthrolycosa wolterbecki were found in the Peasberg quarry near Osnabrück. This find breaks the record because the age of the fossil, 315 million years old, makes Arthrolycosa the oldest spider in Germany. Researcher Jason Dunlop notes that the fossil is well preserved, with even silkworm glands visible, as well as hair and claws on the legs. This indicates that Arthrolycosa is a real spider, and not just a spider-like creature. This ancient spider spent most of its life in a burrow surrounded by webs that served as signal lines to warn the spider of incoming prey. Real fragments of the Book of the Dead IU. In the 19th century, Sir Thomas Phillips, a British collector, dreamed of becoming the owner of all the books on the planet. He amassed a collection of 60,000 manuscripts and 50,000 books. Among them were 19 fragments of the Book of the Dead. For many years, his heirs plundered and sold the library at auctions. In the 1970s, these relics passed to Hans P. Krause, a prominent New York bookseller. In 1983, Krause and his wife donated the fragments to the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, where they were hidden from humanity for many years. Only recently, the museum decided to show the public 7 fragments of these artifacts. The Book of the Dead is not your average book. This is a collection of 200 prayers and spells designed to help the souls of the departed in their journey through the afterlife. It was a kind of ancient guide for the soul. Despite the name, the ancient Egyptians paid more attention to living life in an attempt to curb their fears of death. The goal of the deceased was to reach a paradise world reminiscent of his native Egypt and unite with the deities, participating in the eternal cycle of rebirth. Only the upper echelons of society could afford to have a Book of the Dead with personalized spells. At the exhibition, visitors could see scrolls belonging to temple priestesses named Aset and Ankhesen Aset, as well as strips of linen with spells for mummification. Particular attention is drawn to the court hall scene, where the scales decide the fate of the deceased. If the heart of the deceased is light, he goes to heaven. If it is heavy, eternal autumn awaits him. Theopetra Cave Time Capsule. Just think, 130,000 years ago, people already chose this cave as their home. These are the conclusions archaeologists made while studying the Theopetra Cave in the heart of Greece at the foot of Meteora. This amazing piece of land was formed between 137 and 65 million years ago. People found a cozy place to live in this cave, and its inner world turned out to be extremely spacious, about 500 square kilometers. And what's especially nice is that the cave is so light thanks to the huge entrance. The exploration of the cave began in 1987 and lasted for 20 years under the strict guidance of Dr. Nina Kiparisi Apostoliki. Initially, the cave served as a shelter for local shepherd sheep, but then became a key site for archaeologists throughout Greece. Here's an interesting fact. Theopetra is the only cave in Greece where the historical lifeline from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic is clearly visible. Such a scientific window into the past is a real rarity. The book was returned to the English library. The building could be repaired with a penalty for all the deadlines. But of course, no one will find the violator, and the book, published at the beginning of the 17th century, has now become a real diamond in the collection of books. The book now belongs to the Cathedral of Saints Peter and Paul in the English city of Sheffield. The temple was built in the 1380s and has long been a popular library among the locals. The library has long been gone, and the clergy now do not even know where it could be. The publication that was handed over to the temple is called Faith and Practice of the Church of England. Judging by the notes, it was issued back in 1708, but the reader turned out to be so unscrupulous that he never gave it up until the end of his life. As a result, the work spent centuries on the shelf in families of several generations until 3 centuries later it was decided to return it. The return was made by a resident of Wales. The book had been with her godmother for many years, and it was a dying wish to return it to the library. Skull with traces of complex brain surgery. The remains of 4 women and 6 men were discovered at the archaeological site of Paleocastro. Examination of the bones showed that these people led a physically difficult lifestyle and received many injuries. Judging by the nature of the burials, they all belonged to the upper class. The analysis revealed very serious cases of injuries received by both men and women. These injuries were treated surgically and orthopedically by a very experienced doctor, a surgeon with great experience. We believe that it was a military doctor. The skull of one of the buried people attracted particular attention of the researchers. A detailed analysis showed that the surgeon performed a complex brain surgery. The nature of the intervention indicates the severity of the injury. There was practically no chance of survival for this person. However, the doctor attempted to save him. He was probably a very important person for the population of Paleocastro. Archaeologists have been able to obtain accurate medical, surgical, and paleopathological data about this unusual surgery and the tremendous efforts of the surgeon. It was determined that infection was the likely reason for the surgery. It was also determined that the man died during or shortly after the surgery. Horned human skulls. There are many claims of skulls with horns. However, very few of them have been independently investigated. Although specific skin tumors may look like horns, they are not part of the skeleton and are more like nails than horns. According to stories, horned skulls appeared in Pennsylvania and then mysteriously disappeared before they could be examined by experts. Giant emerald vessel. The real treasures include not only the jewelry of kings and noble ladies. Among them, there are things of incredible beauty that cannot be worn or used in everyday life by a modern person. These items include an emerald vessel that once belonged to Emperor Ferdinand II. The emerald vessel is a fairly large, irregular-shaped container with a miniature domed lid. For decoration, gold enamel with small inclusions of processed green stone was used. The metallic pattern wraps up the vessel and gives it an even more solemn, rich appearance. An emerald with a size of 2,680 carats was needed to make this work of art. The giant was found in the Musa mines located in Colombia. Unfortunately, we cannot trace this moment. It remains only to assume that the emerald of unprecedented size was bought by Rudolf II himself. The stone is mentioned in the inventory of the Imperial Collection for 1616. Falcon Temple with a mysterious message. In Berenice, Egypt's ancient port city, archaeologists have discovered an ancient Falcon Temple that has them baffled by headless birds, unknown deities, and a mysterious inscription. Heads are not to be boiled here. The excavations, which are more than 1,700 years old, revealed 15 headless falcons on a pedestal and a stone monument depicting 2 unknown gods. An iron harpoon, 34 centimeters long, was found next to the pedestal. In another part of the temple, a stele was discovered with a Greek inscription that reads, "Heads cannot be boiled here." It is not clear why the falcons were beheaded, why a stele with such an inscription was in the temple, and why the harpoon was placed near the falcons. The stela depicts three deities, Harpocrates of Coptos, the child deity, and two mysterious gods whose names are unknown. One with the head of a falcon, the other a goddess wearing a crown with cow horns and a solar disk. It is likely that the headless falcons were sacrifices to these gods, in particular to the falcon-headed god. Remains of fish, mammals, and eggshells were also found in the temple. The temple shows that ancient religious practices continued even after the advent of Christianity. At that time, Christianity was the state religion of the Roman Empire. The beheaded falcons and the ban on boiling heads raise many questions about cults and beliefs in Berenice. Skeleton with intact brain. Imagine a giant 45-hectare mound that looks like a heart in aerial photographs. It is called the Heart of Western Anatolia for a reason. Now comes the fun part. For the first time in the history of Turkish archaeology, scientists have discovered well-preserved skin remains. And what else? Remains of the brain. Imagine the remains of a brain that is already 3,700 years old. Finds of such antiquity are something incredible. They were a young guy, 15, 18 years old, and a middle-aged man. Apparently, their house was set on fire during the Bronze Age, and they did not have time to get out. It's scary to imagine, but it was thanks to this fire that their remains were so well preserved. This amazing mound was the real capital of its region in ancient times, but around 1700 BC it was completely destroyed by attack. And now comes the main question: how is this possible? How could remains of brain and skin survive after such a long time? Thanks to extremely high fire temperatures. This is truly a unique and rare find. Maternity hospital for aliens. In 2000, when archaeologists led by Frank Gaudieu were searching for the treasures of Napoleon's ships, they suddenly encountered something completely unexpected. They found the mysterious city of Heraklion, which disappeared under the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Heraklion was a brilliant trading center until in the 4th century BC. Alexander the Great did not build Alexandria. The city was built in honor of the Egyptian god Ra, while the Greeks believed that it was founded in honor of the demigod Hercules. At first, it seems that there is nothing supernatural. The ruins of the city, sliding into the sea, the statues of pharaohs, the ruins of temples. But while exploring an ancient temple, divers discovered bas-reliefs depicting women in luxurious clothes holding small humanoids. These babies were thin, with thin arms and legs, elongated heads, and huge almond-shaped eyes. Questions immediately arise. Women cure aliens? Or are they images of household gods? Or what if this is proof that aliens were experimenting in ancient Egypt to create human-alien hybrids? Maybe Hercules, who was considered a demigod, was actually the son of an alien from heaven and an earthly woman, a hybrid of a man and an alien? These questions remain unanswered. But one thing we know for sure, history is full of unexpected discoveries, and each of them opens up new horizons and opportunities for research. Write in the comments below the video, what do you think about this? What strange images have survived to this day? Are historians really trying to hide valuable information from us? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Found a trace of the legendary meteorite. Scientists have found a giant crater in Southeast Asia, which is 18 kilometers long and 13 kilometers wide. It is located in a volcanic field in the southeastern part of Laos. About 800,000 years ago, a real stone monster 1.9 kilometers wide collided with the Earth. Fragments from the impact scattered over 10% of the planet's surface. Scientists have found these fragments in the form of glass beads, known as tektites, many times in Asia, Australia, and even in Antarctica. But until now, researchers have not been able to find the place where the meteorite hit. The search continued for over a century. Scientists have proven that a giant crater is buried underground, which is why the crash site was so difficult to find. When a meteorite hits the Earth, it melts the stones, scattering their splashes for thousands of kilometers. Cooling down, these drops harden and turn into what scientists call tektites. By examining the location of tektites, scientists can roughly determine the impact site of the meteorite that created them. America was discovered by the ancient Romans. There is no longer any doubt that the first Europeans to set foot on the American continent were not members of the expedition of Christopher Columbus, but the Vikings, Scandinavian navigators who first discovered Iceland, then Greenland, and then landed in North America, where they were even able to establish a colony. But archaeological finds on Oak Island, located near the Canadian province of Nova Scotia, can turn the whole story of the discovery of the New World. We are talking about a Gladius Sword, which a group of amateur archaeologists led by Jovan Pulitzer discovered during excavations. The chemical analysis of the sword confirmed its similarity with samples of Roman weapons from Europe. According to archaeologists, there is no doubt that the discovered sword was made by ancient Roman craftsmen and is genuine. The handle of the gladius, which apparently depicts one of the ancient Roman heroes, suggests that we are not dealing with a standard sword of a Roman legionnaire, but a gift item that was awarded for certain merits. Interestingly, the sword was originally discovered back in 1940 by local fishermen when it accidentally got tangled in a net. Only recently, the fisherman's family decided to give it to archaeologists. It turns out that some ancient expedition was able to swim across the Atlantic Ocean and reach the shores of America. Perhaps someone from the team accidentally dropped the sword into the water, or the ship was wrecked and the gladius remained lying on the seabed for many years. Underground Palace, 1,001 columns. The oldest and second largest underground reservoir in Istanbul from Byzantine times is remarkable not only for its architecture, but also for many mysteries, which only become more numerous over time. The Philoxena cistern is located in the Bin Berderek district of the Fatih City district, 200 meters from the Column of Constantine, 150 meters from another luxurious cistern of Theodosius II, and 100 meters from the Sultanahmet tram stop. True, the entrance to the reservoir is hardly noticeable and you can accidentally pass by. In the Ottoman Empire, the already inactive structure was called Bin Berderek, 1,001 columns. In fact, initially there were 224 columns in the cistern, and now there are 212 of them. When entering the room from the abundance of columns, it begins to seem that there are really a huge number of them, but it turns out that in Turkish the word bin bir simply means a large number in meaning 1,001. Well, a lot. Of particular interest to researchers and travelers are the mysterious symbols on the columns, which are still clearly visible. Researchers unanimously claim that these are signs of masons who prepared columns for the cistern on the island of Marmara. True, supporters of the conspiracy theory are sure that these symbols belong to the Freemasons, who began to use the premises of an abandoned cistern for their meetings shortly after the fall of Constantinople. An unusually light sword from the 14th century. And it also happened that ordinary workers cleaning the sewers discovered a sword of the 14th century. Just think, where are we and where is the 14th century? The total length of the find is 112 centimeters. The length of the blade itself is 93 centimeters, but the weight is a little more than 1 kilogram. Well, how can this be? Such a big sword and such a small weight. The ancient master facilitated the discovery due to the narrow blade and the presence of a fuller. When the blade was being cleaned, an inscription in gold was found on it, which had yet to be cleared and deciphered. But one thing is clear for sure. This sword clearly belonged to not a mere mortal. Colorful Egyptian tomb. The Egyptian deserts continue to reveal the secrets of an ancient civilization famous for its majestic pyramids. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities recently unveiled a well-preserved tomb over 4,000 years old. The tomb is attributed to a high official named Kui from the 5th dynasty. This monument is part of the extensive necropolis at Saqqara, south of Cairo. The tomb has a special shape. An L-shaped corridor leads to a spacious hall with paintings depicting Hui at a table with sacrificial offerings. Some designs retain the vibrant colors associated with royalty. Archaeologists are trying to understand the relationship between Hui and Pharaoh Djedkare-Isesi, whose pyramid is located nearby. One theory is that they could be related. The mummified remains of kuvi and broken canopic jars, vessels for organs, were also found in the tomb. The oldest meteorite. Meet Erg-Chech 002. Not a simple meteorite, but a whole great-grandfather from space. It is already 4.6 billion years old. It was found in the Sahara Desert and holds the record for being the oldest volcanic rock on Earth. This is an andesitic achondrite, one of the first space inhabitants. Scientists from Australia decided to find out all its secrets. understand how the planets were formed and what happened in the solar system at the dawn of its existence. But our old man has prepared a surprise. The isotope aluminum-26 was the main source of heat in the early evolution of the solar system. In addition, by its quantity, experts usually determine the age of meteorites. But it turned out that at the beginning of the existence of the solar system, this aluminum was distributed unevenly. So the old methods of determining age are no longer so accurate. This discovery changed the ideas of scientists. Now, to find out the age of the space inhabitant, we need a new approach. Faces on Mars. An amazing trip to the Red Planet. Mars awaits us. In 1976, the Viking 1 probe circling Mars took a picture of a pile of rocks that look a lot like a human face. NASA has labeled it an enormous rock formation that resembles a human head. At that time, some people thought that this face was the remnant of an alien civilization, and the neighboring stones were the ruins of their city. Of course, NASA scientists quickly concluded that the face was just a play of light and shadow, but the idea has spread through culture, appearing in books, movies, and TV shows. The face on Mars is located in a region known as the Cydonia region, between the planet's southern highlands and the smoother northern plains. Some scientists think that this area was once close to the vast Martian Ocean when the planet had enough atmosphere to keep water on the surface. Later, in 1998, NASA's Mars Global Surveyor probe took more detailed pictures of the face. All subsequent high-quality images confirmed the initial analysis. The assumption of a face is an optical illusion due to a specific angle of incidence of light on the surface of the rocks. The illusion rock itself, about a mile across, resembles the cliffs or mesas of the western United States and is likely formed from a combination of landslides and accumulated debris. And while the face on Mars is one of the most popular sites, it's far from the only group of rocks resembling terrestrial features. Viking captured several other fascinating images, including Gal Crater in the southern highlands, which is shaped like a smiling face. Such structures, of course, do not indicate the presence of alien life. On Earth, too, formations can be found, such as New Hampshire's Old Man of the Mountain, which create aesthetically pleasing images without alien interference. On the other hand, right now in the United States, they are declaring that they have real evidence of alien life. And at the moment, they confirm their words with an oath on the Bible, promising to show alien transport and biomaterial. Underground Temple. Many have heard about the mysterious megaliths of the Incas, but few people know that there is a similar structure on the island of Malta, which introduces scientists to a stupor. The Republic of Malta is a tiny island nation located in the Maltese archipelago in the Mediterranean Sea. Until recently, no one suspected that a huge underground labyrinth temple was hidden in its depths. It was discovered only at the beginning of the 20th century. From the remains of pottery found inside, archaeologists concluded that it was built about 6,000 years ago by ancient people. They hollowed out more than 30 rooms in the limestone and connected them with stairs and tunnels. They contained human skeletons and animal bones, so some scholars believe that the site was used for burial. However, it is unclear why such a large number of rooms were needed for this purpose, so this version remains only a guess. Rooms are mostly round or oval in shape and are rather chaotic. In addition, from some rooms there is a descent to lower floors, going even deeper into the ground. The total area of the temple is about 500 square meters, which is quite a lot for an underground structure hollowed out by hand. The walls of the cave are covered with geometric drawings. In addition, a statue of a woman was found inside. Archaeologists suggested that this was probably the goddess of female strength and fertility, since matriarchy reigned in this part of the world at that time. But the most mysterious thing is not even the existence of an underground labyrinth, but in one of its rooms, the Oracle's Room. It refers to the so-called acoustic structures that ancient people built around the world. These rooms are built in such a way that they allow sounds to resonate at a specific frequency. There are similar rooms in the Egyptian pyramids. Scientists do not fully understand how it works and what is the purpose of such premises. The Oracle Room in the Maltese Temple is made in the form of an ellipsoidal niche in the wall. The words spoken there in a low male voice immediately spread throughout all the rooms. They will be heard even in remote corners. But all other sounds spoken by a different timbre are muffled. No one hears them. This phenomenon remains a mystery, along with other incomprehensible phenomena left to us by the builders of antiquity. Substance 7 billion years old. Stardust is the oldest material on Earth, from which we can learn about our parent stars, the origin of the carbon in our bodies, and the origin of the oxygen we breathe. Examining fragments of the Murchison meteorite that fell in September 1969 in Australia, scientists found particles of stardust that formed 5 to 7 billion years ago and is the oldest solid material ever found on Earth. The life path of all stars is approximately the same. They are formed from particles of dust and gas floating in space which find each other, stick together, and heat up. Then they burn for millions to billions of years and die, throwing into space the building blocks newly formed in their ones for future stars, planets, satellites, comets, and asteroids, stardust. Luckily, some of these pre-solar grains, that is, solid particles formed before the birth of the sun, were trapped in the Murchison meteorite, where they remained unchanged for billions of years and were eventually delivered to Earth. Aztec technology could help humanity. Researcher Roland Ebel from the University of Montana, USA, conducted a study and found that the ancient agricultural technology of the Aztecs can benefit the civilization of the 21st century and save megacities from food shortages. The scientists carefully analyzed the technology which was widely used by the Aztecs. They created floating islands on Lake Texcoco, Chinampas. In fact, these were fields raised above the water on which the ancient peoples grew and harvested several crops a year. During the rainy season, such islands literally floated on the lake. The Aztecs added new layers of earth and fertilized them, and there were no problems with watering the plants. Chinampas provided fresh food to the population of large cities all year round. In particular, they could feed the population of such a city-state as Tenochtitlan, on the site of which the modern city of Mexico City is located. The heyday of technology came in 600 to 900 AD. However, the indigenous peoples of Mexico continue to use it to this day. Roland Ebel found floating gardens in some suburban areas in Xochimilco. Local residents dig channels and layers of earth are poured onto special platforms. This allows you to reap a rich harvest even in dry periods. In addition, such technologies were found in antiquity and are still found among some peoples of South America, Asia, Oceania, and Africa. Ebel concluded that floating gardens have proven themselves well over their 1,000-year history as a highly effective technology that holds a potential solution for the megacities of our time. The use of Aztec technology can help solve the problem of hunger, which for many countries is becoming increasingly important due to population growth. Do you know what is the advantage of YouTube? The fact that the videos are coming out now and you can watch them many years later and they will never lose their relevance. YouTube preserves the video in its original form, as amber does with insects. Subscribe to the channel and share the video with your friends. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone.